welcome to Africa This Week on Global L Television, your weekly program where we bring to you the latest of all developments happening on the African continent, from politics to culture, economy, society and sports. Let us begin in Niger, specifically in the village called Fambita, located in the southwest of the country, where 44 people have died. They were killed by jihadists during their usual Friday prayers at the mosque. We have our correspondent Jean-Marc Bicoque standing on standby, who is going to give us more details about this sad incident. Hello, Jean-Marc Bicoque.
Salut John et salut à tous les téléspectateurs d'Africa This Week. L'actualité au Niger a été marquée au mois de mars, spécifiquement le 21 mars dernier, par une attaque terroriste dans le village de Fambita. C'est situé dans la région de Tillabéri, une région très touchée par l'insécurité. C'était vendredi 21 mars, lors de la prière du vendredi. Les terroristes sont entrés et ils ont tué une quarantaine de personnes. Il y a eu plusieurs blessés qui sont pris en charge à l'hôpital de référence. Alors cet acte barbare a été condamné par plusieurs institutions. L'ambassade des États-Unis a été condamnée par plusieurs représentations diplomatiques. Et puis il faut dire que les Nigériens continuent d'avoir confiance au CNSP, qui fait beaucoup d'efforts pour amenuiser le terrorisme, et les dispositions fortes ont été prises. D'ailleurs, lors de la cérémonie de mise en œuvre des résolutions des assises nationales, le 26 mars dernier à Mamad Gandhi, le président de la République, le général d'armée Abdourahmane Tiani, a dit prendre de grandes décisions pour amplifier la lutte contre l'insécurité au Niger.
Jean-Marc Bicoque, after this deadly attack, what was the reaction of the Nigerian authorities and the population as well?
Alors, après cet acte barbare, cela ne peut que créer une psychose, la torpeur dans les cœurs des habitants de Fambita et puis dans la région de Tillabéri, qui est déjà très touchée par l'insécurité. Mais aujourd'hui, le peuple reste serein, fait confiance aux autorités du CNSP, parce que quand on fait le ratio entre les attaques terroristes avant l'arrivée des militaires, et aujourd'hui on constate que la situation s'améliore considérablement. Et puis dans les jours à venir, cela va continuer. Déjà qu'avant, les forces de sécurité qui étaient sur le terrain, quand ces militaires traquaient les terroristes, alors il fallait ramener le matériel de ces terroristes auprès de la haute hiérarchie. Mais désormais, quand les forces de sécurité sur le terrain traquent les terroristes, leur matériel, moto et tout ce qui va avec, même de l'argent, reviennent, voilà, tout ce que ces gens possèdent, voilà, cela revient aux militaires. Donc, ce qui booste encore davantage les militaires à continuer de travailler, déjà qu'ils sont bien pris en charge. Il y a des gros moyens qui ont été mis par le Niger pour lutter contre l'insécurité, avec le fonds de solidarité voilà, pour la sauvegarde de la patrie, où les entreprises contribuent. Il y a également les appels téléphoniques, où sur chaque appel téléphonique, on vous prélève 10 francs CFA. Ces fonds permettent de renforcer l'armée nigérienne, qui de plus en plus fait de grands efforts, et on voit les preuves pour lutter contre l'insécurité.
Thank you very much, Jean-Marc Bicoque. Still talking about security. Still in Niger, the government has announced its withdrawal from the multinational Joint Task Force, a coalition established in 2015 to combat terrorist groups in the Lake Chad region. This coalition includes forces from Nigeria, Chad and Cameroon. This decision, which was broadcast on state television, indicates Niger's intent to concentrate on safeguarding its oil infrastructure, which has been vulnerable to attacks by armed groups. Also, this move occurs amid escalating tensions among the Lake Chad bordering nations since Niger's military coup in 2023. Niger's withdrawal raises concerns about the future effectiveness of this multinational joint task force and the broader regional security dynamics in combating terrorism. let's go to Guinea. On March 28, 2025, Guinea's ruling government, led by interim President Mamadi Doumbouya, pardoned former military leader Musa Dadis Camara for health reasons. Camara had been serving a 20-year prison sentence after being found guilty of crimes against humanity for his role in the 2009 stadium massacre in Conakry. In the 2009 incident, security forces opened fire on pro-democracy demonstrators protesting Camara's intention to run for president, resulting in at least 157 deaths and numerous injuries. Additionally, at least a dozen women were raped by security personnel during the crackdown. Camara seized power in 2008 during a coup, but fled into exile after surviving an assassination attempt in December 2009. He returned to Guinea in 2021 and was convicted in July 2024 for his involvement in the massacre. The current military government has also announced plans to pay court-ordered compensation to the victims of the massacre, estimated at over $20 million. And now, dear televiewers, let's take you to the land of upright men in Burkina Faso. On March 25, 2025, the authorities of Burkina Faso, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, issued a communique setting an ultimatum for certain United Nations agencies. They demanded that these agencies stop using the terms non-state armed groups and militias and instead refer only to terrorists and volunteers for the defense of the homeland. This demand is not just a matter of wording. Let's get more details of this subject with our correspondent over there in Burkina Faso, Sarah Dabone. Hello, Sarah Dabone. Please tell us, why is the government insisting on the use of the term terrorist rather than non-state armed groups?
Oui, salut Joy, salut chers téléspectateurs de Global LTV. Alors, le gouvernement burkinabé estime que le terme terroriste reflète avec précision la nature criminelle des attaques contre les civils, tandis que le terme groupe armé non étatique pourrait donner une forme de légitimité politique ou militaire à ces personnes qui endeuillent le pays depuis 2015, chose que le gouvernement refuse catégoriquement.
But we want to understand, what is the difference between the VDP and the militias, according to the Burkinabe authorities?
Les volontaires pour la défense de la patrie, appelés VDP, sont des civils encadrés par des dispositions légales, recrutés volontairement pour soutenir l'armée dans la lutte antiterroriste. Le terme milice, souvent associé à des groupes non réguliers ou incontrôlés, est perçu comme une manière de discréditer leur statut officiel et leur sacrifice, parlant des VDP bien sûr. Et dans un contexte de guerre comme le nôtre, celui du Burkina Faso, traiter les VDP de milices et les terroristes de groupes armés non étatiques n'est pas approprié, d'autant plus que s'agissant des VDP, il existe une loi qui cadre la création, l'organisation et la dissolution de leur corps, et ce depuis le régime de Roch-Marc Christian Kaboré. Cette loi est établie en s'inspirant d'ailleurs des lois internationales, notamment celles des droits humains.
So, Sarah Dabone, quickly tell us, to whom does this warning from the Burkinabe government apply exactly?
La mise en garde vise tous les partenaires nationaux et internationaux, y compris l'ONU, les ONG et les médias. Le Burkina Faso exige une terminologie claire et unifiée pour éviter toute ambiguïté ou justification indirecte de la violence terroriste.
Thank you very much, Sarah Dabone. It is now obvious that the government of Burkina Faso is doing all they can to maintain their sovereignty and to cut away from these international organizations. We will be bringing you details of this in different editions of programs on Global L Television. This is Africa This Week. Don't go nowhere. Now let's talk updates from the war in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In March 2025, Qatar intensified its diplomatic efforts to mediate the ongoing conflict between the DRC and Rwanda. Precisely on March 18, Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Ahmad Al Thani hosted DRC President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwandan President Paul Kagame in Doha. This meeting marked their first direct talk since Rwandan-backed M23 rebels escalated their offensives in eastern DRC earlier this year. The leaders called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in the region. Subsequently, on March 28, Qatari mediators facilitated a second round of negotiations involving Congolese and Rwandan officials. Concurrently, Qatari representatives held discussions with M23 rebel leaders and also discussions with the Congolese government aiming to address the insurgency's root causes and explore avenues for peace. Now let's look at the escalating tensions in South Sudan, which is raising fears of a renewed civil war. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed deep concern over the escalating crisis in South Sudan, stating that the current situation is darkly reminiscent of the nation's devastating civil wars in 2013 and 2016, which resulted in approximately 400,000 deaths. This crisis intensified following the House arrest of the first vice president and opposition leader Riek Machar, raising fears of a collapse of the 2018 peace agreement that ended the 5-year civil war. Let's get an excerpt from U.S. Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
The peace agreement is in shambles, a humanitarian nightmare, with about 3 out of 4 South Sudanese needing assistance, half the population severely food insecure, and cholera breaking out. A displacement crisis, with more than 1 million people crossing the border from Sudan since fighting began there. And an economic meltdown, with oil revenue plummeting and inflation skyrocketing 300%. Finally, a funding crisis, with much of the already limited humanitarian and development aid drying up. Meanwhile, ethnic and political targeting by security forces, coupled with the spread of misinformation on social media, is lighting the fuse for even worse. Let's not mince words. What we are seeing is darkly reminiscent of the 2013 and 2016 civil wars, which killed 400,000 people. Our UN mission in South Sudan is working around the clock to ease tensions, engaging all parties, and boosting protection of civilians. But we face operational limitations. For the sake of the long-suffering people of South Sudan, it's time for dialogue and de-escalation. The Horn of Africa is already in turmoil and cannot afford another conflict, nor can the people of South Sudan. To the leaders of that country, I say, end the politics of confrontation. Release detained military and civilian officials now. Fully restore the government of national unity and vigorously implement the promises you made through your commitments to the peace agreement, which is the only legal framework to peaceful, free and fair elections in December 2026. I also urge the regional and international community as guarantors of the peace agreement to speak with one voice in support of the peace process and against any attempts to undermine it. I just spoke with the chairperson of the African Union Commission this morning. We fully support the AU initiative to deploy the panel of the wise, as well as the efforts of Special Envoy of President Ruto of Kenya. And we'll be working in close cooperation with the AU and IGAD. The people of South Sudan are close to my heart.
And now let's talk health. South African scientists have made a groundbreaking breakthrough in the search of an HIV cure. The findings were presented in March 2025 at a conference on retroviruses and opportunistic infections in San Francisco. Researchers say the trial, which used a combination of immunotherapy and other treatments, could be a major step towards an HIV cure. However, they caution that further studies are needed before it can be widely adopted. This is a major groundbreaking discovery for an African nation, and obviously we have Blandin Jinka here on set to tell us more about that and how it is, or how it can impact the African continent. Hello, Blandin Jinka. You look great today.
Thank you, Joy. And you do look smashing as well.
Thank you. Let's quickly talk about this discovery in South Africa. Tell us, what are some of the implications of this discovery?
Right. First of all, we know that every HIV and AIDS positive patient takes antiretroviral therapy for every day of their lives. And fortunately, with this groundbreaking discovery, they're now, let's say we already have results. We have 20% of the tests that came out with people that could go as far as 1.5 years without the antiretroviral therapy. So that actually is a huge groundbreak. And also, we also counted that the virals, or they said the virus in their system actually was had a resounding reduction as at the end of this experiment. And this experiment definitely was done in KwaZulu-Natal in Durban.
Given that U.S. President Donald Trump recently withdrew U.S. aid from South Africa in particular, don't you think that this is a milestone?
Look, I'll tell you something. I'm personally excited about this because, well, yeah, part of my hometown. But it is actually a huge milestone, given that South Africa alone carries 7.9 million infected individuals, and only 5.9 of those individuals are actually on antiretroviral therapy daily. So imagine the reduction of cost, imagine the reduction of work, imagine it's going to change a lot of things as far as the country as a whole is concerned, as far as the health department also is concerned, because this is something that mostly pregnant women suffered from, the high level of the viruses in the system, transmitting it to the kids. But now we are sure that it should be possible for kids to be born HIV-free.
So this is definitely a milestone.
It's amazing. It's an amazing.
Thank you very much for being with us on set today.
Thank
you. You look
so
nice,
much.
Definitely, and Eid Mubarak, Blandin Jinka.
Eid Mubarak, Joy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay with us. This is Africa This Week on Global Television. We'll be right back. Now let's go to Egypt. Let's talk about this tragedy. 6 Russian tourists has lost their lives when a terrorist submarine sank off the coast of Egypt on March 27, 2025. The vessel, operated by Sinbad Submarines, was carrying a total of 45 passengers, including Russian, Indian, Norwegian, and Swedish terrorists. Rescue teams managed to save a total of 39 people, but 6 Russian nationals could not be reached in time. Egyptian authorities have launched an investigation into the cause of the sinking as questions arise about the safety measures in the country's underwater tourism industry. The Russian embassy in Egypt has confirmed the death and is working with local officials to provide assistance to the victims' families. Presidential elections in Gabon. Campaigning ahead of the upcoming elections began on March 29, 2025 and will continue until April 11, ahead of the April 12 vote aimed at restoring civilian rule following the August 2023 military coup. Transitional President Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema, who led the 2023 coup that ousted President Ali Bongo Ondimba, has declared his candidacy. On the campaign's opening day, Nguema addressed supporters at the Sino-Gabonese Friendship Stadium in Libreville, emphasizing his commitment to leading the nation towards stability and, of course, development. Let's get an excerpt from one of his campaign rallies.
Mes chers compatriotes, je suis candidat pour poursuivre l'œuvre entamée au lendemain du coup de la libération, le 30 août 2023. Suite à votre appel, je veux continuer à œuvrer pour la consolidation de l'unité nationale, socle sur lequel nous bâtissons notre avenir commun. Je m'engage à être le président de tous les Gabonais, sans distinction d'origine, d'ethnie ou d'appartenance politique, car c'est ensemble, unis et solidaires, que nous relèverons les défis qui se dressent devant nous. Aujourd'hui, je viens vers vous avec un projet concret, un projet ambitieux, un projet parlant pour Doum, Coco Beach et Donguina.
Now let's talk sports, shall we, ladies and gentlemen, as the race for the 2026 FIFA World Cup intensifies. African nations have recently concluded pivotal qualifying matches that have significantly influenced group standings and prospects for the various teams. Now, Egypt solidifies its lead in Group A over Sierra Leone. Meanwhile, in Group B, Sudan and Senegal top the ground. Meanwhile, Sudan has 10 points, followed by Senegal with 8 points. In Group C, South Africa won over Benin 2-1, and we have Cape Verde and Cameroon. In Group D, Cape Verde obviously leading the group. In Group E, Morocco maintains perfect record despite off-field challenges, and Cote d'Ivoire leading over Gabon in Group F. Now, Group G, Algeria won 5-1 over Mozambique to take the head of that group. Meanwhile, Tunisia and in Group H, and Ghana is leading in Group I. These are the results according to the 6th day of matches, accounting for qualifiers for the 2026 FIFA World Cup in the CAF region. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's edition of Africa This Week on Global L Television. Thank you for watching, and I must say, Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim viewers out there. Bye-bye.